Hello, everybody, and thanks for tuning in, all y'all Tina Turner fans, Ike and Tina fans, and curious minds. I myself am a fan, so hey. I also got to work closely with Ike and Tina's talented family. Yep, that's me over there to the far right with my eyes closed and my head up. After that movie came out that put Tina Turner in the spotlight and took her career into the stratosphere. Today, we're going to get clarity about the origin story of Ike and Tina Turner, because there's a lot of confusion about that.
How did you and Ike meet up together in St. Louis?
That's a long story. Look, I'll try to make it short. Ike was very well known in St. Louis, and I was still in high school, very young. Yeah. And, and I had wanted to sing with this group, too young to go in the clubs, but I sort of put on makeup and so forth to get in. And when I finally got to him, I asked him if I could sing with him, and he said, yeah, I'll call you. Yeah, you know.
Right. Yep.
So then, but he never called me. So one of the musicians set one of the microphones down one night, and I took hold of the mic and started singing. Pow. That was the beginning.
There's a lot going on with the origin story that's out there. At the time when the movie was still fresh in everybody's mind, I was coming to work with this family, and I was really floored to discover how many things were really exaggerated and that they got horribly wrong. Probably the most important thing of all, and that is the origin story. I was blown away and kind of upset to discover that Ike was not the father of Tina's first child, Craig Hill Turner. Not upset that they had a child out of wedlock, that's very human, but upset to find out how the movie gave us the impression that Tina was this unsuspecting, inexperienced virgin. That's what they depicted in the movie. And I found this upsetting because this is how the movie set the stage to sell the idea that Ike took horrible advantage of Tina, robbing her of her innocence, making Tina out to have this Disney-like innocence. And it was not at all like that. Tina actually put this in her book, but the movie is more famous than the book. Tina spent time with Ike Turner's saxophone player and got pregnant, Mr. Raymond Hill. Even though Tina was not his girlfriend, they were a little wild and loose over there in St. Louis. And that was all during the first year Tina arrived from Tennessee. Tennessee is where she had her first love. She documents this in her book. So Tina had already made her first experiences long before she arrived in St. Louis, as far as teen years are concerned. That didn't stop the filmmakers from twisting this truth into a way that, like they make a villain and a princess. And the movie was a lot of that, like a Disney princess and this villain. Tina knew what was up with those facts of life. She knew what was up with that part of the game. She was experienced. Tina also knew that all those musicians in that band had tons of ladies, including Ike. Their popularity was like that of the Beatles. The ladies came in droves to see these guys. There was always an audience full of women, including the 16-year-old little Miss Anna Mae Bullock. Tina shouldn't have even been up in the club, but Tina had a secret little hookup so she can get in the club while she was still underage. There's a lot of things about this origin story of this famous couple that has been just basically lied about, outright lied. And it's so unnecessary because there's so many reasons to admire Tina Turner and criticize her, as well as vice versa. Ike and Tina were both flawed human beings, and they were at the same time both impressive human beings. They both had a lot of pain in their life, and that probably was part of the thing that drew them together, as well as their work ethics. They both were some workhorses for their careers, and that's why they had that kind of success. As a matter of fact, in Tina's 1986 memoir, if you haven't read it, she speaks about how good Ike was to her in those early days. She also said that in interviews. Ike Turner was, till the end, he's a very generous person authentically. And at that time, he didn't smoke or drink, but the running around with the women was always an issue for Ike. Ever since he was a teenager, he had experiences when he was a little boy. Even Tina had her flaws in that area and other areas. As far as cancel culture goes, Tina would probably get canceled in this day and age if people heard her say these words.
Sort of our attitudes and our way of life sort of esteems from the African way. And I think like this sort of, I'm only speaking now like from something I haven't really looked into, but I get that Africans are sort of very lazy people. They're not very aggressive. They just sort of want to live off the land and live very comfortable, which is great if you can do that, if you're in a position to be able to do that. But I felt that they enjoyed our performance there, but I have to be inspired by something when I go to Europe. I enjoy it because the people there are very fashionable, and it's just fun. I mean, all we do is work. We check in a hotel, and we go on stage, and we go to the airport. So you have to feel some kind of inspiration from a city, right? So when I go to Africa, I'm very down because the food isn't good. I don't get any really good, fantastic vibes from the people, so I'm just really bored.
Yeah, that clip was from 1976. That was the same year when she said she had enough of Ike. And let me clear something up. A lot of people actually know that Tina's first child, Craig, is not Ike Turner's biological son, because now we're in the age of Google. And it's also in Tina's book, I, Tina. That's Craig right there at a mature age. Of course, this book is what the movie What's Love Got to Do with It was based on. Tina and her writers in her book, I, Tina, they did a good job of bringing up some interesting facts and giving Tina's early background in Nutbush, Tennessee. But they also did a very good job of being extremely vague when they wanted to be. Tina and her writers. The movie, by the way, is classified as a semi-autobiographical story. And I would also say that Tina's book is a semi-autobiographical story of Tina's life with a lot more truth in it than the movie. But Tina learned how to pretty up stuff from Ike. Actually, he's the one that started cleaning up her image and keeping things way in the background. Intentionally keeping the public from knowing what the situation was with especially Tina's first child. He wanted her to have this squeaky clean image, as squeaky clean as you can make it, for somebody that was promoting the whole sexy rock and roll thing. And look, let me just put a disclaimer in here, people. I see Tina as the queen of rock and roll. She is that. I am a fan. I'm an admirer of her as a woman, her whole thing, what she's done with her career. I'm a fan of a lot of people. I'm a musician. That's how I got to be with this great, incredible family. And when you look back, when you start learning things about your favorite celebrities and heroes, sometimes it's shocking. Probably not now, because now we're in the internet age and people just don't have no filter. People don't have shame. But in those days, people had a lot more shame. So they tried to cover a lot of stuff up. I mean, people still have shame these days. But back then, they really tried to cover things up and in their own minds. Ike and Tina, both Ike and Tina are from the church. So, that church mentality stayed with them in the early part of their career. And Ike was always, even to the end, some kind of church boy, but he just got in a lot of trouble. So please know that I know that Tina is the queen of rock and roll. So this video is not about disputing her title in any way or bringing shame to the queen. But this is a whole entire family that, her kids became like family to me. Actually, Ike became like family to me. Tina was pretty non-existent in their lives. She popped up sometimes at very strange times, and I can tell you about a couple of incidents. A little bit of truth is in order right about now. So we know that little Miss Anna Mae found her a little sweet boy in Tennessee, and they had a good time, and that's where she came into womanhood. Not with Ike in St. Louis, but in Tennessee. But the movie showed the 16-year-old Tina as a damsel in distress, and she was, but not because of Ike. It was because of Ike's saxophone player, Raymond Hill, the father of Tina's firstborn child. Raymond impregnated little Anna Mae Bullock with no intentions of providing for Anna Mae, Tina, and her baby. nor did Tina's mother appreciate it. Oh, mother was very upset that after Tina being down in St. Louis for just a year, she was knocked up and hanging out in the nightclubs under the legal age. And Tina's mother actually smacked her a little bit for that. Mother was not having it. And Tina was supposed to be getting into nursing, going the nursing direction. Tina's mother did not appreciate her being up in the club, trying to be up under Ike Turner and his band. They had a reputation of being womanizers, pistol-toting boys. Her mother didn't appreciate it, and Tina was supposed to be going into nursing, but Tina saw those bright lights, baby. And just how was the underage 16-year-old clueless anime Bullock, Tina, clueless to city life, getting into the club? Well, it was because her sister, Alline. Alline was the it girl, and she was a barmaid or waitress or bartender, whatever you want to call it, at that Manhattan club where Ike Turner and his Kings of Rhythm performed. Tina's sister, her older sister, Alline, was the queen. Now, we know Tina's the queen, but Alline was the queen before Tina became the queen. I don't think you'll ever be able to find these pictures of Alline online, but Ike kept a stack of pictures. He kept beautiful photo albums, but he had a stack of pictures of Alline that he kept, along with a whole lot of other footage from the old days in Mercy. If you saw Tina Turner's sister, Tina's sister's Alline was something else. She was young and lean and voluptuous at the same time. Chocolate, beautiful skin. She was a hottie and fashionable. Tina Turner's mother and Alline, they were really, really fashionable. It took Tina a while to catch on. So Alline was popular, the popular big sister of Tina Turner, and that was Tina's way into the club. Oops, you can see Alline down there at the bottom with Tina, and you can see this picture of Tina when she was just graduating. She graduated at 17, and she had her son before she graduated, her son Craig. So she was very young, and everything moved really fast. But you can see there Tina had arrived to St. Louis, but she hadn't arrived as Tina Turner. She arrived as Anna Mae, and it would be a little while before Tina started to develop into this persona of Tina Turner that we all know. Tina was a diamond in the rough, and Tina was seriously rough around the edges. Even in this picture here, she had already been taken very good care of. Ike was taking very good care of her at this point. But there were earlier points when you can see that Tina was really quite needy. And I know that's not the image that we have of Tina, but there was a time when she needed a lot of help. Okay, and Ike didn't put Tina in the band like the movie showed. Like they showed as if they passed the mic over to Tina, and from that moment a star was born. Tina was still little Ann, and she sat in with the band doing a few numbers, and it was a development. The real story of Tina's success is her pursuit of this band, her determination to be around these guys. Tina was determined to be around this group of musicians that were quite a bit older than her and wild beyond anything she ever experienced. There were a lot of things going on in that band that were not cool, but your girl Tina, Anna Mae Bullock, was excited to be around Ike Turner's pistol-toting playboy Kings of Rhythm musicians. They were good-looking, talented guys, and Tina got caught up, even though they had this reputation that actually landed Ike in the newspapers all the time. It was well known what kind of dude Ike was. As time went on, Tina was sneaking out, going into the clubs. Ike heard her voice. He started to feature her a couple of times, but it was a bunch of people, a bunch of females trying to get up on that stage with Ike. It was very competitive. If you want to talk about the abusive, dysfunctional environment, it was in that club. These women were fighting each other, brawling, first over the dudes, and they were brawling to get up on that stage. So Tina She was young, but she was holding her own. She was there for it. Tina did not become a fixture in the band. She was just featured and kept coming up there. And just as quick as she got close to them, Tina got pregnant within a year of arriving to St. Louis. Still in high school, and she got kicked out of the house. In the next year, she would be working as a nurse's aide in a hospital after she graduated. It didn't look like bright lights. It didn't look like the bright lights were in the cards for Tina, but she was determined to get over there with Ike and the boys. So, you know what she did? She called Ike, partly because the young man, this is after Tina's kicked out of the house. She's working as a nurse's assistant. And the young man who impregnated her, Raymond Hill, was renting a room in Ike's house. And Tina also wanted to be in the band, and she wanted to be in that house. And Tina knew Ike would help her. Ike, if you talk about the early days, you cannot really talk about Tina without talking about Ike and understanding this origin story of how things started. For fans like me, it might be important for you to get this cleared up. The kind of person Ike was. Ike has been the same for decades. And one thing particular about Ike is he loved to have his house full of people. He wanted his house to look just like that stage, or rather like a nightclub. Full of people. He would take care of you, feed you, have you sleeping over for days if he could, because that's all Ike was about, was his music. He was not about no drugs, no alcohol, no smoking, but he did chase the women, and he loved a party atmosphere, a musical atmosphere, and Tina wanted to be in that. She knew the atmosphere at his home very well. She knew the atmosphere they created in the club because her sister was dating the drummer. Her sister would take her over with her when she went to see the drummer, and Tina started seeing Raymond Hill. So when Tina got in a bad way, when she was by herself, alone with her child, nursing, she knew that she could call Ike and get help because she knew that she could make herself of use to Ike, and she could be an asset to that band. She knew that. This is the determination and the vision that this woman had. She had this vision for herself. Ike didn't go looking for her. So, and that's not to say that she wasn't worth going looking for, but it wasn't Ike's initiative. It was Tina's initiative. All the guns and stuff that these guys carried around, all of the dysfunction and the violence in the fights, the outbreaks of fights, all the women, ladies of the night, all the competition with women, that alone was a mess. None of this kept Anna Mae around. She was a tough cookie. She was country tough. As a matter of fact, Tina Turner's mother up here toted a gun herself. That was not unusual in these days. That was another time. And as far as the beating goes, they also, people in those days, they put their hands on their kids, especially black families. They put their hands on kids in a kind of way. I was working around these old school Ike Turner review people, and I had a couple of debates with them because I didn't believe in all of that corporal punishment, you might call it, but they believed in that, and that transferred with a lot of men to the way that they handled their women. I don't condone it. I must not condone it because I have a daughter. I was not going to raise her like that. Putting my hands on her, I didn't believe it. I didn't think maybe there's a reason here and there to, I don't know, but for me, I just don't do it. I'm not judging nobody else, but I didn't appreciate it. So, and definitely if somebody put their hands on my sister, if somebody put their hands on one of my sisters, no. It's not going to turn out good for you. That never happened. And my mother and my grandmother, I also knew my great grandmother. These are women. You couldn't put your hands on them. So there were literally a lot of women fighting, going to blows with their fists, trying to have position with these men, these musicians, and trying to have position with Ike, trying to get position with Ike. None of that scared Tina off. It never ended, not even up until the time I was working with him after the movie. Women, there was no end to the women that would offer themselves. I mean, Ike was a church boy, so I guess that passage in the Bible, Acts and you shall receive, he really used that. He really took full advantage of that scripture and made it work in his life, because the women, if he was alive today, you know how women are, especially now these days. It's a lot of ladies, they just don't mind. And again, I'm a person that I have no tolerance for violence. I know violence happens with people, but if somebody's putting their hands on you, you don't need to be a part of that. I don't think it's worth paying that price in any relationship, not even for fame. But some people are so fame hungry. And Tina was hungry for fame. So I was a famous musician in St. Louis, and he was famous for helping people. He was famous for helping people, and he was famous for carrying a pistol and getting into fights. And he wasn't the only one. It's just a famous story because he turned into the great Ike Turner that helped to launch Tina's career into the stratosphere. So it's a story, but there was a lot of violence going on, even with a lot of the blues cats. I'm not going to start naming a whole bunch of names, but James Brown is another one. A lot of people that you admire, they had a lot of dysfunction in their relationships. And I like to think that we have grown out of that, but we know some families get down in some crazy ways. But to make Tina out to be this delicate little snowflake, this just it wasn't true. Nobody deserves to be handled like that. But I'm telling you, Tina was there for it. She seen it with her own eyes, and she still signed up for it. She still wanted to be in that house. When she got pregnant with Craig, she could have went to the church. She could have stayed in nursing. No, Tina was dedicated, and she was willing to pay that price. She was willing to pay that price. And a lot of women around was ready once Tina got into that band. A lot of women were ready to take her place. And they did. They didn't have to take her place. They were dealing with Ike at the same time as Tina. But that's how Tina came into the situation with Ike. And if Tina knew that the internet was going to come out, there's a couple little shady things that she probably would have never said. We'll get into that next time. Y'all keep living your life like it's golden. Peace.